Eltz Castle in Germany. The creativity of the human mind has no limit. Just look around, and you'll see the fantasy-like structures that can only be described as a product of dreams. For many years, the Taj Mahal, the Eiffel Tower, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, to name a few, have been attracting visitors from all over the world. There is no denying that art and architecture are the best storytellers. When you visit a new country, wandering around and appreciating the local art and architecture is the only way you get to learn about the history, culture, and traditions of this foreign land. However, apart from the world-renowned structures mentioned above, there are some hidden gems that are equally as mesmerizing but don't get the same attention. One great example is the wondrous medieval Eltz Castle in Germany. The Eltz Castle is one of 3 castles along the Rhine River that has survived the destruction and ruin that has affected this entire area over the years. This beautiful castle blends perfectly against the charms of the Eltzbach Valley that surrounds it on 3 sides. If you wish to travel back in time and witness a fairy tale castle, Eltz Castle should top your list of your next destinations to visit. In this blog, you will learn all about this gorgeous castle, as well as some interesting facts that will intrigue you until you're able to make the trip to see it for yourself. Historical background of the Eltz Castle. In the Holy Roman Empire centuries ago, it was common for heirs of wealthy lords to share in the inheritance of their predecessors' land. Each descendant of the Eltz family could not afford to build their individual castles, so they decided to collaborate and jointly build the Eltz Castle. In 1157, Emperor Frederick I Barbarossa greenlighted the project and approved the construction of the castle. However, in 1268, when the project was well underway, a typical family feud left the 3 brothers Theodore, Wilhelm, and Eltz with no option but to divide the estate. They reached an agreement to divide the castle into 3 complexes, each section intended for one of the 3 branches of the Eltz family. From that point onward, the 3 families were known as Eltz Kempenich, Eltz Rubbernach, and Eltz Rodendorf. After the segregation, the Eltz Castle turned into a Ganerbenberg, a name given to castles that were inhabited by different branches of the family at the same time. The peculiar location of the Eltz Castle along the dynamic trade route linking the Moselle River with the Eifel Mountains added to its reputation as one of Germany's historical landmarks. The castle was erected around 4 stories of the Romanesque living room, which were part of the original and much smaller castle complex. 1331–1336 conflict. Throughout the centuries, the castle was only once the subject of a military dispute between the years 1331 to 1336. During that time, the Eltz Castle was put under siege by the Archbishop of the Diocese of Trier, who initiated a territorial policy claiming state ownership of the privately owned estate in what was known as the Eltz feud. Despite the Archbishop's attempts to gain ownership of the Eltz Castle by firing cannons and stone balls at it, the Eltz family sustained and refused to give in. By 1336, the Archbishop and his knights gave up and gathered their forces to leave the Eltz Castle and its residents in peace. Thanks to neighboring state owners' support and strategic family planning, the Eltz Castle was never caught in similar conflicts again. Resuming construction. The Eltz feud had put the construction work of the Eltz Castle on hold until further notice. Construction picked up again after the end of the siege, and in 1442 the top 2 stories and the roof were finally added in the Rubinage House, one of the 3 main buildings, followed by the staircase in 1444. The 10-story Gross Rosendorf House, the second of the main complexes, was concluded between 1470 and 1520. This house takes its name after the family's property in Lorraine, following the union of Hans Adolf zu Eltz and Catherine von Bransky zu Rodendorf in 1563. The Gross Rosendorf House is home for the formidable Banner Hall with its infamous late Gothic net vault ceiling, which was believed to have been part of a chapel in an earlier life. The Banner Hall was used as a living and dining room, above which 4 other stories were later built. Between 1604 and 1661, the family decided to add some extensions to the Eltz Castle by erecting 3 more stories on top of the Romanesque hall range. It's believed that from start to finish, the Eltz Castle took almost 500 years of construction to reach its current state that we know today. Notable renovations. A historic structure such as the Eltz Castle requires constant restoration work to ensure it ages gracefully. Between 1845 and 1888, Count Karl zu Eltz spent around €15 million to restore the tower to its original medieval style. From 2009 to 2012, the German government granted the Eltz family €2 million to fix some structural damages, including walls and roof reinforcements, and also upgrade the heating and fire alarm systems around the castle. The different rooms of the Eltz Castle. The castle has more than 100 rooms, which were once home to 100 family members plus their servants and occasional guests. Before hotels, aristocratic families were expected to accommodate their visiting guests as well as their entourage, so the more rooms, the better. For extended visits, guests were asked to pay fixed fees that were used to finance the maintenance work around the castle. Below you can find a compiled list of the most memorable rooms of the Eltz Castle. The Armory. During the Romantic period, the Rubinich house entrance was turned into the Armory. The Armory contains a selection of weapons and other war artifacts. It is also where you can see the oldest surviving cannon bolts during your visit to the Eltz Castle. The Rubinich Lower Hall. One of the earliest rooms to be built in the castle, in 1311, the Rubinich Lower Hall was completed and used as the family room. If you have a knack for famous paintings, you don't want to miss the opportunity to behold the notorious Madonna with Child and Grapes by the German Renaissance painter Luca Cranach the Elder. The Rubinich Upper Hall. Furnished by wall-to-wall artistic murals, this Gothic-style hall is also known as the bed chamber due to the enormous four-poster bed in the middle of the room. The dressing room. Adjacent to the bedchamber, the dressing room is also adorned with 15th-century murals and other ornaments, including paintings of descendants from the Silver Lion line. The study. Count Karl commissioned the furnishing of the room above the Rubinich entrance to be turned into the study for his wife Ludwin. You can also see more family portraits in the study, where Count Karl is depicted with his 2 sons and 6 daughters. The Elector's Room. This room was named in honor of the 2 electors of the Eltz family, Jacob zu Eltz of Trier and Philip Karl zu Eltz of Mainz. The Elector's Room is elaborately furnished with pieces from both the 17th and the 18th centuries. The Knight's Hall. This is where the 3 branches of the family would get together to discuss important matters. Built in the 16th century, the Knight's Hall, with its opulent oak panel ceiling and unique suits of armor decorating its walls, was also used as a festivities room. What's interesting is that besides the obvious seriousness of the usual affairs discussed in this room, the family knights didn't forget to add an element of irony represented by the jesters' heads that adorned the walls. You can also marvel at the beauty of the infamous Rose of Silence, which signifies discretion of the sensitive topics discussed between the walls of the Knight's Hall. The Angel Room. The Angel or Hunting Room is where the Eltz family showcase their special collection on hunting weapons and trophies. One of the most prominent features of the Angel Room is the embrasure dating back to the original construction period of the Eltz Castle. The Wambolt Room. This room is full of unique furniture pieces. From a 17th century reel to a historic clothes press, it will make you feel like you have traveled back in time. The Countess Room. This was believed to be the children's room because the wall paintings are of young members of the Eltz family. When you visit, make sure to take note of the oldest surviving bed from the Renaissance period in Germany made in 1520. The Rodendorf Kitchen. One of the 4 main kitchens of the Eltz Castle, the Rodendorf Kitchen, houses many pieces from the centuries between the 15th and 19th. The Eltz Castle today. The Eltz family descendants still own the Eltz Castle to this day. Dr. Karl Graf von und zu Eltz-Kempenich and Faust von Stromberg, who live in Frankfurt am Main, are the rightful owners of this epic castle. The Eltz Castle is open for public visits from April through November. However, there is some important information you need to know when planning your visit. Unfortunately, you can't take photos inside the castle. However, you can make up for it by snapping some beautiful outdoor pictures. If you are traveling with your dog, you need to find someone to dog sit for you since pets are not allowed inside the Eltz Castle. Leave room for a picturesque lunch in one of the 2 main restaurants located inside the castle. The castle opens to visitors at 9:30 a.m. However, if you want, you can have the castle all for yourself if you plan your arrival 1 hour before the opening time. If you visit the Eltz Castle December through March, you can still enjoy the scenic surroundings of the castle, but you won't be able to go inside. You don't need to pay any fees to visit the Eltz Castle. If you want to make the most out of your visit, you should plan ahead for a guided tour. During the tour, will you learn more details about this beautiful castle and ask as many questions as you want because you will surely have many. How can you get to Eltz Castle? We want this book to be an all-encompassing guide to the Eltz Castle, which is why we have included the different means of transportation you can use to reach the castle. If you have a rental car, you can take a fun road trip and visit all the other neighboring castles like Burgthorn, which is only 10 miles away. By using the GPS on your mobile phone, it's pretty easy to reach Eltz Castle. Parking fees are only €2, which is considered reasonable for a free-of-charge visit. If you don't drive, you can use public transportation to reach the Eltz Castle. On Saturdays, Sundays and public holidays from May to November, you can take the special castle bus Borgen Bus 330. Borgen Bus makes 4 round trips a day between Tracecarden to Eltz Castle. If you want to break a sweat, you can take the train to its import station and hike for 5.3 kilometers up to the castle. The hiking trail is well equipped with signs and should take you no longer than 80 minutes to reach your destination. It's incredible to see how the Eltz Castle has stood the test of time and remains as magnificent and exquisite to behold after being in the family for 33 generations. Tourists from all around the world flock to Wiersum in Germany every year to pay a visit to Eltz Castle and to learn an important lesson about medieval history. Your kids will be ecstatic to see that a castle from their bedtime stories actually came to life, that they wouldn't have a problem with the 45-minute guided tour.